This example, I'm going to show you how to use variables to track and change some physical objects in your game world again, just a little bit. In this case, we're just going to swap the color of this little piece of this platform here that I've got selected there. And we're going to use variables to toggle between two different states. And this will show you a lot of cool stuff about Playmaker. So here we go. What I've got is a material applied to this object that's just a simple diffuse set to red. All I did was choose that and applied it just to this portion. So that will be the material upon which we're going to change the color. And let's make a trigger. Once again, I will create a Unity cube. Oops. Make sure it is at 0. There we go. And this time I'm just going to really quickly rough this in to be a little bit larger, or sorry, a little bit smaller than the platform itself, the platform color change part, and raise it up there. Let's get rid of the mesh renderer and make sure is trigger is activated. And we'll name it platform trigger. Sounds good. Now add an FSM to this. And we're going to need a setup state for this one. I just know this already. And another state for the listener, which will be our trigger state. So remember, if we're just going to set up some stuff really quickly and then flow out of it, we can use a finished event right there in that transition and just go right into the listener. And let's add the trigger event. And on enter is exactly what I want to check every time. And so we can start with that. Now I'm going to have two different colors that I move through. So let's set up two variables right now. I'll call this color1. And I'm sorry those drop off the screen for you there, but color is the variable you want to choose for type because we are changing a color. So name that color1, add it. And I want a second one, color2, add that one as well. You can either hit the add button or return, both work. So now we have two variables, color1 and color2. In the setup state, I want to assign what the value of those colors is. In regular terms, that means I want to pick two colors. That's what I want to do here. So let's type in color and see what we find. Looks like set color value. If we come down here, it's in the color group. That's exactly what I want to do. And I want 2. I'm going to hit return twice. And I have 2 of these objects for setting color value. And it's asking us for the color variable at the top of each one. And if I click, I've got my 2 variables here. So let's just pick color1 and color2, because that's what we're doing. And right here under color, if you click on this box, it pops up the color picker. How cool is that, right? Let's have a green, kind of like an on button. And down here, color 2, I'll make that red so it kind of matches the color we started with up here. So if green and red are our 2 colors. And you could have named these variables, right? Color 1 and color 2. In fact, let's do that. Let's call this one color, green. And we'll name this one color red. And that way, we know what we're doing. And if you look, check it out, it's updated it. That is so cool. Color green, color red. If you're going to be changing these colors a lot, you probably don't want to go with that, which is why I kind of started thinking in terms of color 1, color 2. But in this case, it makes sense to name them specifically because that's what I'm going to use over and over in this example. Now we're going to add one more variable, and this time I'm going to call it current color. And out of the variable type, I'm going to pick int. And this stands for integer. Basically, it just means a whole number, like 1, 2, 3, 4. If I'd chosen float, that is a float number, which is like 1.5 or 78.23. So if you don't need the point whatever, just go with an int. And in this case, all I want to know is which color am I using? this one or this one. So I'm going to stick with color 1 and color 2, okay? And that might be where you want to go back and renumber them, but I'm going to stick with this because I started there. So under setup, I'm going to action browser. We want to set int value. There we go. So we've set the color, and now we're going to set the value of, our int variable doesn't show up. Did I leave that as a, I didn't hit return. Check that out. Okay, I'm going to have to start over again. Let me get out of that. And let's add a new one. I don't want to edit, so I'll click off of that. And I forgot to hit add, so that's a good warning sign for the rest of you. So once again, current color. And let's check that it's an int. Yes, it is. So now if we come back down here, int variable current color, there it is. If you create them, Playmaker will find them for you. If you don't, best of luck to you. And the current value, they start at 0 by default. I'm going to go with 1 and 2. You can use any set of numbers here. I'm going to call this an int value of 1. Wait a minute. 2. Let's set this to 2. And actually, let's change this back. This is going to make a lot more sense. This is great because it shows that you can change things as you work. Color 2 is going to be green. And color 1 is going to be red. And I'm doing that because the first color, one, that we have set is the red one, right? We're starting with red. So I'm going to call that color 1. Just happens to be red. Color number 2 is green. That's what we're going to change to later. So current color is going to equal 2. These aren't linked, okay? There's a 2 here under color 2, and I've put a 2 here. They don't mean anything other than what we as a human recognize. The computer hasn't linked these at all yet. What we're going to do next is exactly that. So in the listener, on trigger event, if somebody enters this trigger, we need to do something. So let's create an event for that. And I'm going to call this one check colors. And let's add that as a transition. Check colors. Move that down. And color checker will be our new state. Move right into that. Keep moving them down the line there. And now we want to check the value of what we said right here. Set int value for current color. We want to check what that value is here. So let's type int. No, not what I wanted. Switch. If you've ever programmed, this is a way that you can do basically an if statement. You're checking the value of something. If this variable right here, if current color equals 1, then do something. If current color equals 2, then do something else. That's what we're doing here. If you haven't programmed, it's okay. Current color is the int variable that we want to check in our switch. How many switches are there? We want to check 2 different conditions, okay? And compare. We want to know what is the value here that we're trying to compare current color to. So 1 and 2, right, are going to be our 2 possible values because we have 2 colors, a red one and a green one. And we've already decided they're color 1 and color 2. So I'm going to check 2 different amounts. Now if I'd put 4 in here, see, I just get 4 different things I could check for. So if you had 4 colors, you could really easily modify it for 4. I'm going with 2 for this example. We do not need to check every frame. We just want to do this once. And it's asking us what event we'd like. Because if current color equals 1, it's going to fire this event. But if current color equals 2, it's going to fire this event. All right, so let's pick 2 events. And really, when we get back to human terms, what we're doing is set color red and set color green. So here's our two things, and we're going to want two new states for that. I'm going to call them set red and set green. And let's hook all this up. We're going to need two transitions. Figured out. Let me move this up a little bit. So one will be set color green, set color red. Let's pick those two. Before we leave here, let's choose. Remember, number 1 is red. We're checking for the value of 1. And we've decided that red is color 1 because it is the first or the 1th color that we see when we enter. The next one will be set color green for color number 2. And set green can go here. Whoops. And set red can go right there. So now we've hooked up another little state machine. Now let's take a moment just to look at this and talk about what we're really doing again, just so we're up to speed. So we start out loading the object here. Right away, we set two color values, assign them to the variables color 1 and color 2. We set the value of an int variable named current color to the value of 2. Then we move into this state where we just hang out and we listen for an on-trigger event. Aha! And I forgot to assign this. Then if somebody enters the trigger, we're going to fire off the event check colors, which will move us into the color checker state. When we're in the color checker state, it's going to quickly check the current color int variable, see what its value is. It's going to see if it's 1, and it's going to see if it's number 2. And if either of these things match current color, then it will fire off the matching event. So that's where we're at up till now. Pretty easy, actually. Now, under set green and set red, obviously what we want to do is set the value of the current color. What's happening is when we run in, let's just play it actually and see what's going on. If we watch the state machine in the window, we're at the setup, or we're at the listener that's checking for an on-enter event. And if we enter, we fire that event, and it goes to green, which seems wrong. So let's look at that. If the color equals 1, it'll go to red. If it equals, did I set that backwards? Let's look. Yes, current color equals 2. And that is my mistake. And this is why you check it. So current color should equal 1, right? Because we want it to be red. We want to assume that this is red for right now. So let's play this again and see what we get. Make sure that fixed it. And yes, now we're matching. Okay, so I was kind of thinking correctly. What we really want to do is toggle this color. So actually we want to swap these, right? Red and green, because if it's currently red, which is color number 1, we want to set it to green. And if it's currently green, color number 2, we want to set it to red. So every time we enter this trigger, we're going to swap its color, okay? And we assume it's red because the texture is red. What we're doing there is matching the logic of our functional state machine with something we can track, again, using a variable to make sure we know what's going on. We're setting that to a matching color so that we can assume we know what's really happening and then take action on it from there. Now we want to set the color to match whatever we've said here in our state, because when we flow through, we're going to check out, are you green or red? And then we're going to set the color to the other thing. So we need to change the value of the color on the material of this object. So let's start with set green, and we'll choose our action browser. And I want to set material color. There it is. Remember, we're not setting the color value, we're setting the value of a material color. So game object, we can choose, sorry. We need to set that and drag on the object, which is this platform colors center. That's this middle piece. So we're specifying what we're changing the value on. And instead of choosing, like we could click here and just pick a color at random, right? And set it, or not at random, but specifically, and set it to whatever we want. But I don't want to do that. I want to set it to one of these two variables I've already picked. And remember, color 1 was red, color 2 is green. So I'm going to choose that. And when I'm done, I'm going to add a transition for finished. So when I'm done doing that, I want to go back to the listener actually, because after I've changed the color, I want to wait for another onEnter event. It's right here. So that's it. I just go in here, change the color, come back. So let's set that up for red too. For the action browser, set material color and specify game object. And let's pick color 1, drag this into the game object, and we are set. We could have, instead of dragging this on every time, kind of like we did with the breaking vase example, we could have made a variable for this and just chosen this out of a list of variables right there. In this case, I'm just going to drag that on. Now, same thing, add a transition, finished, and flow right back. So let's play and see if we have any bugs in our state machine. Start out, it's red. It is red, there's no light in here. Go on it, and look, it turns green. And we can screw around, we can exit it, it doesn't change, right? Because it's only waiting for another onEnter event. So if I come on again, it didn't quite work, did it? And why not? Because we did not change the value of the current color. Okay, we didn't set that value at all. And so of course it thinks it's red again, even though we've changed it to green. When it checks it again in this section on another onEnter event, it still thinks that the current color is red. So we need to update that right here. Let's come down here, select that, and from right here, right click, copy selected action. Come over to set green, right click, and paste actions. And now I can just change the value to 2. And that one is set, because now that'll mean 2 is going to equal green. Red, I can paste the same action again, and I don't have to change anything because this is still setting it to 1. So what we've done, just like here, we set the value to 1 of current color right here in setup. Every time we actually change the color, we change this number so that we can track something else is going on. And this lets us do a calculation, because you can't test for red or green, right? But we can test for 1 or 2. And that's why you have kind of two things going on here. You're changing a color between red and green, 2 colors, and you're changing a number between 1 and 2. It's kind of 2 simultaneous things because we can test against numbers. But we don't have a color switch because, there are thousands of colors. So it would be really hard to match them exactly. So let's run this again and see. Got play, we're on red. We enter, it turns green. Let's back out of that and let's go on again. Now we've got red. And once again, we should have green, red. So we've created just a kind of a toggle button here that we can run on and off of all day long or until we get bored, which is now. And I'm going to leave it on green. So there you go. That is a functional state machine that loops around on itself, allows you to toggle back and forth between states. You could have had several different states here if you wanted to change between many different colors. And of course, it doesn't have to be colors. This was just a quick way to show you. You could have set these up to, say, turn an alarm on and off. If you have a sound that's an alarm, and while the alarm is 1, the alarm is not on. While the alarm is set to 2, it spawns bad guys and it plays a big siren sound and things are really bad for your hero. And then if they throw the switch, right here, instead of waiting for an onEnter event, you could have a lever that gets pulled or a button that gets pressed or a power that gets used. And in that event, it would turn the alarm off and then bad guys would stop showing up. Anything you want to move through various states, this is another way you could do it. You could even, if you had that vase example from the last time that was breakable, you could move through various states of that and just keep resetting them if you wanted to, keep respawning them. This is just another way, right here with this trigger and the int switch, to kind of do an if check and get some more complex motion going with your functional state machines.